Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Wednesday, March 4th. All of a sudden my microphone seems louder than it usually is. Perhaps I'm just having a good hearing day. So, yeah, I managed to fall asleep and then kind of wake up early. So there was less of an issue today about getting to uh, getting around to streaming during the morning, which is something that I think I should try to stick to. So we're kind of back to the 7 in the morning stream schedule, at least for today. We need to re-roll one of these, which will be this one. So now we have to play black and green cards. That's fine. I got a full 15 win on, I guess, Monday was when we last played. And so we've got a decent amount of stuff to open. We've got 2 Theros Beyond deck packs. Odds are we'll just have some card fillers here, nothing new. And then we've got a new event to consider. And so we'll have to think about that. And that probably is the 3rd copy of that one. Store-wise, let's see, what's new as far as daily deals, I guess. Well, this isn't a bad deal. Buying a skin off a daily deal is the right move. So we'll take that and apply that. Whereas buying a skin for a specific card was way more expensive and kind of unimportant once these cards go out of standard play. So yeah, usually these are 3,000 gold, which is way too expensive. Honestly, they should be free. Or you should unlock them through playing like daily quests or random weekly quests. And the fact that that was available at such a discount is actually quite shocking. 88% off an actual deal, whereas you're getting 30% off of things that are usually very expensive. Now, what I haven't seen as far as a good deal is packs, and I bet packs are never on discount, even from older expansions, because that would be the better option. And this historic bundle is about to end relatively soon. Yeah, if these packs, like the Galaxian packs, were on sale for 300, I potentially would open like 50 packs of them just to have them. We are at rank 62. Like I said on Monday, I don't think we're gonna have any struggle getting to rank 90. We probably won't get much further than that. We have some expansions here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess we're full circle. So we're going here. And then we'll go here. And that leaves us with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more of these mastery orbs to get more skins. And unlike the previous mastery where getting certain mastery orbs would merge together and get you skins for black-white cards, this mastery orb layout only gets you monocolor skins. So the offering is actually worse, or, well, I don't know if it's worse or if there just weren't any good dual color cards that came up in Theros Beyond Death. What else do we need to cover? We're bronze tier 4 and silver tier here, so we'll need to play some more of this. Avatars wise, yeah, I guess. I was really thinking I'd probably never buy these avatars, I may have gotten this avatar for some other reason, or this avatar for some other reason, but you do start with a decent number of options for free anyways. Let's see, let's look at our collection and see what we got that was actually new. We got a 4th copy of this, a 3rd copy of this, a 3rd copy of this, and a 3rd copy of that. And all the other cards were practically worthless, opening There's Beyond Death cards. Again, it feels like I made a mistake by opening 50 packs at that point. So here we have something that might intrigue if we had an extra 2,000 gold or gems, yeah, but we don't. In fact, we're struggling still to get enough gems to ensure that we'll even have 3,000 for the next mastery when the next expansion happens. So this would be really good if you were not free to playing this, I guess, if you wanted War of the Spark cards, to do a draft here where you could potentially win 2,200 gems if you got 7 wins potentially, and you get 3 more packs. But these packs that you get are not the 14 card draft packs. These card packs are the 5 or 6 card booster packs, and so you have to also recognize that there's some shenanigans certainly happening behind the scenes with all of this. If I was going to do anything, I would do this, and I guess I can just play this for free and get 500 gold. Alright, we'll do that. So, what have we got? Let's double click here and look at what cards we're going to be playing. So, it seems like this is a green-blue deck which was labeled as Constellation, and I see some enchantment things, but only 1 card so far with a Constellation. When an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on a target creature that gains flying until the end of the turn. So this is your main card you want to play, it seems, and then otherwise it seems like there's mostly flying. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, this gains flying until the end of the turn. So something like this with flying, perhaps, to get a lot of buffs, or something like this, or some of these big heavy hitters. Alright, that seems interesting. Or you do a dual color sacrifice card, which almost certainly is centering around sacrifice. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a 1/1 counter on this character. This one gets a buff when you sacrifice. Is there Escape the Underworld as a spell? Nope, doesn't seem so. So, seems like a kind of basic sacrifice deck. And then we have a black-white devotion, which theoretically shouldn't be that good if you have 2 different colors and you're playing a devotion deck. Yeah, I don't know how. This one seems a little bit more complicated than, or less likely to win. Alright, so let's start with the devotion deck and just play with it. And we're just gonna potentially play 3 games even though we only need 1 victory. I actually have been awake earlier than this and managed to do a extremely long, like hour to 2 hour spotlight of Clue/Cluedo from Marmalade Games on Steam. I can only say it's way too expensive to buy. There's a $4 version of Clue for your cell phone, for at least on Android, where it's $11 to get the base game on Steam, And then it is a massive, ridiculous $34 for the season pass to get a few more skins and different boards to play on, to play Clue, which I don't know if the different boards actually change the rules in any way at all. Like, I suspect that there is a chance it doesn't actually change the boards at all, or change the way the games play. On top of that, there are complaints on Steam that the multiplayer doesn't work, which is ridiculous because the multiplayer is integrating the mobile phone version. So either people can download a free app and use their cell phones to be the second player and third player, or up to 6 players, which I feel like Clue had more than 6 characters, and they at some point just got rid of that and reduced it down to 6. Let's see, can't block or this. So, yeah. It's just way too expensive, and it's just a not very visually polished or audio-wise polished version of Clue. It's probably better than some of the other, maybe the previous Hasbro games, but it's probably not better than Hasbro Family Game Night 3, which had 3 board games on top of Clue. So yeah, just not really. Part of the biggest kick in the butt with it was that I was playing a solo game against 5 easy, out of easy, medium, and hard AIs. Somebody took a turn that guaranteed that everybody playing should have known somebody took a turn that revealed who the killer was and what the weapon was, and the location of the murder was. So the game was over at that point. Once you make a suggestion and nobody has any cards to show you, you kind of have to make the final accusation at that point. The game is over. Everybody knows. With the slight exception that I guess the other players could think you're lying and you suggested a card you already had in your hand. Which, okay, that's somewhat possible. You could be acting deceptively. But that doesn't stop the actual player who makes that accusation to not make the final accusation. And so they just refuse to. 4 out of the 5 AIs played before it was my turn, and when it was my turn I made the accusation of the cards that nobody had a copy of, and I won. Just stupidly and ridiculously. Inherently there is a there is a problem with Clue. It's not a particularly fair game. You can really get screwed by your dice rolls. You can get really screwed just by your positioning. You can get really screwed by bad luck. It's also a little too complicated and a little too weird and a little too slow. I like Clue quite a lot in concept, which is probably to say I like the Clue movie and very little else. Hexproof and indestructible as an instant. Alright, we'll see how this goes. See if he'll block Here. How did that not work? Hexproof and indestructible until the end of the turn. If it's an ancient creature or enchanted creature, I guess it wasn't an ancient or enchanted creature. This would be an enchantment creature. Oh. That was dumb. So yeah, I can't recommend anybody buy Clue. Well, I wasn't wrong in assuming I didn't understand this sacrifice deck. Or that was the devotion deck. Let's try the sacrifice deck next. Didn't even know what I was playing, so. But yeah. It probably is the smart move for me. I can't really make any suggestions to other content creators, but probably is the smart move for me to wake up earlier at like 2 or 3 in the morning and do a pre-recording on days I'm going to stream, and then stream, because streaming can always be this random length of time and it can just go on forever, and it can be quite infuriating and frustrating, and very, very rarely do I get any work done after streaming. I guess inherently that means I should probably stream late into the evening, but also that doesn't work. I've had a massive amount of new subscribers in the past 28 days. 10 new subscribers is actually quite a lot of momentum. What is this? Am I literally playing against somebody who played in the championships? I'm about to get my butt kicked then, unless I'm playing against AIs, which is also a possibility. I've got nothing I can do, so we'll just end the turn. Let's see. I'm thinking about potentially shaking up how my second screen looks, because when we come over here, there's a section up at the top that's for the chat, and I'm not really going to bring back the chat, and then there's just over in this general corner a screen that's showing what's going on. But I don't think that extra border at top really needs to exist, and it may just stretch the pixels and fix it that way. Let's see, what am I doing? I'm basically doing nothing. We're playing tit for tat. What does this do? This creates black zombie cards, which is pretty much all I can do, so. We want to be able to escape this, so this would have been a perfect card. So how do we get it out of the graveyard now? Yeah, now I can play this and bring this from the graveyard back else do we want to sacrifice? I can't get rid of one of those? Darn it. 33 or 34? Yeah, let's get rid of that. Alright. Bring this. Bring that. Put that on the field. Bring that. So, an interesting thing is happening, and I don't know how video game news this really is or not, but first of all, on Steam, Halo Anniversary is now available. That's big news. People probably will have caught that without me telling it. But it feels like because of possibly Japan canceling school for a month, also there was a rumor that caused a huge panic on toilet paper, and so now there's a major amount of hoarding on toilet paper in Japan due to a false rumor that the face masks were made with the same thing toilet paper was made with, which is just not true. Let's see. But yeah, they're having a midweek madness sale of Sega Japanese games, and also they're having a visual novel sale, which is weird, certainly, because we don't see a lot of that. There you go. Gotta put that on that guy. And get lifelink. So, yeah. Some other games definitely on sale. It's just a weekly sale, but you have this visual novel sale of up to 85% off, which is quite a lot. Now, this artist depicting visual novel animation is pretty random and not really what visual novels tend to be. And in all fairness, a lot of these are not things that look like they're particularly good or the top tier anime Japanese ones. For instance, Max Gentleman Sexy Business is probably a troll game not really worth playing amongst better visual novels. But under the anime section, there are some that are at least somewhat recognizable. Island here is on my wish list and is overwhelmingly positive. Sabat of the Witch is overwhelmingly positive. Labyrinth of Refrain is on the wish list. Day Live, Rio Reincarnation, very positive. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if any of these are rated negatively or even mediocre. They're all overwhelmingly positive. Play this. This one, I guess, and this one, and this one. Then you get over to the mystery section of games that are available. You have the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy, which I would argue is not so much a visual novel. It's like a half visual novel, half strategy detective game. You have Steins Gate, which is probably one of the best game series, and they're 64% off. Almost certainly never going to see a discount like that again. Well, at least in the next year, you probably won't see a discount that good. You have the Danganronpa Despair Collection, 41% off. These are really, really good sales for games that almost never go on sale. I don't recognize this one, All Games by Love Conquers All Games. The Zero Escape bundle is 59% off. The Higurashi When They Cry, one of those games, if not a bundle of the many, many games in that series, are on sale. Let's see. 3 damage to any target, scry 1. Let's see. This probably is the first Higurashi game, or maybe the latest Higurashi game. The Silver Case, which is historically relevant, is 60% off. Uminikyo When They Cry Complete Collection, 53% off. You Know a Girl Who Chants Love at the Bound of the World is 60% off. Like, all of those mostly recognizable. And you've got a small selection here of romance, with Dream Daddy, Dating Simulator being thrown in. Again, I guess technically that's as much a visual novel as any other romance game is. But take note how there's only 4 games being mentioned here, where every other category has at least 8 that they're mentioning. And that almost certainly is, well, horror's also a factor. And that they're bending over backwards here not to recommend anything that is more of a lewd romance or sex game, which is still the vast majority of what a lot of visual novels are. I would say the majority, yeah. Let's see, what does this do? Do I want to scry some more? Not right now, but I should. So horror-wise, they have the House of Fate Morgana Complete Collection, 53% off. The Coma 2 Vicious Sisters, not discounted at all, but still getting highlighted. Chaos Child, 60% off. The Song of Saya, 30% off. And Raging Loop. And then sci-fi, they have AI The Sumner Files, which is a relatively brand new game. You have More Steins Gate being sold. Subsurface Circular, which I guess it's a very dialogue heavy game, so I guess you'd put it in that category. What does this do? So this one just buffs itself up by taking 1 health out. Interesting. What did I just do? I clearly played that wrong and just ruined my own turn. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know what I did specifically that caused that guy to die, but clearly I did something. The categories just keep going. You have female protagonists with Kindred Spirit and Highway Blossoms and Fault Complete Edition, Tokyo Dark, The Pillars, Kinfall, it's The Pillars of Eternity. Again, not sure. This is tagged as a point and click, not really a visual novel, so they're being kind of loose with this. Here they have a special category for otome visual novels, which means young maiden, which tends to be romance-centric games with good-looking guys in it. And Amnesia Memories I already own, probably got it for free. Ozume Fia is on the follow list. Don't recognize a lot of these others. And then Animals and Dragons for the furries out there, which, let's face it, I guess there's a decent number of those. With Hatoful Boyfriend being mentioned here at $2.40. And then there's a category here of free games like Doki Doki Literature Club, Everlasting Summer, Mixed Messages, Cinderella Phenomena. You get what you pay for with a free visual novel, certainly. And then there's some short ones, which short, probably it should be a category that's more focused on. Considering how visual novels have this tendency to be extremely long. Nope. Let's keep on attacking. And then they have a list here of just more games, which the important part to take from this is a lot of these games are on my wish list. But this one, Go Go Nippon, My First Trip to Japan, is 100% off. So they're even giving away a free game. Colonel Sanders is also free, so I guess I should make sure I install that. Nico Para has been turned into an anime, so it's pretty popular right now, the Nico Para series. There's just quite a long list here, but also you're getting a pretty decently curated experience there also of visual novels too. They're not, you would have a considerably harder time trying to just scroll through all visual novels. Yeah, this one is so. For the game Go Go Nippon, Nippon being a Japanese word for Japan, there was a button that said add to account, whereas for I Love You Colonel Sanders, it is a free game and you just click play game, so I guess that's the difference you take from that, is that if it's a free game, I probably won't ever play this walking advertisement for KFC, but maybe I'll spend a small amount of time on it. Is this a target creature I can gain control of? Nope, 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 nope. Cannot do that. Yeah, so yep. Very strange, very oddly timed. I don't think Tokyo Game Show or anything is happening right now. And it's not like it's Chinese New Year or some kind of Japanese normal time of celebration. It's not. I don't think it's Golden Week or anything like that. If it was Golden Week, that's not really enough things to be on sale. I think it would be very interesting if it turned out that this sale did turn into a scenario where it really boosted Valve's bottom line, and they decided they put even more of a focus and even more of a highlight on visual novels. But I don't think Valve can really do much more to promote visual novels than they already are. They know they sell well, and they know they make money for them. It really is just a matter of whether Westerners want to cover those games or not. So I'm gonna just sacrifice this creature, I guess. And that counters his ability. And that's the first time I've actually been able to sacrifice. And it barely even helped. But I am managing to, I guess, keep him on the ropes. But there's literally nothing to do. So, until I draw another card, this is just going to be 8 more turns. So, yeah. Visual novels on sale for people interested in visual novels. South by Southwest is happening, or it's coming up. Let me rephrase that. South by Southwest is coming up, and it is assumed that it is happening, but it is questionable also. Let's see. Sacrifice a creature, deal 5 damage. I don't think I want to do that. Let's see. Instead, we'll gain control over character. And then we'll sacrifice it. Yeah. We don't want a 1/1. Okay, now this one would do 1 damage life and gain 1 life. This one would draw a card. So I'm gonna sacrifice that to draw a card. Which I was hoping for something bigger, but that'll be fine. Twitch support 3 minutes ago said they're currently investigating issues preventing users from going live. This is only affecting Europe. Sorry for the inconvenience. Seems like maybe for one reason or other the internet might be having trouble all around everywhere. My internet certainly was having trouble earlier today. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the United States Super Tuesday, or if it just happens to be a coincidence. Yeah. We've got a ridiculous amount of news and stuff to talk about. But yeah, there is also the South by Southwest question. Let's see, what does this do? Up to 2 cards from the graveyard gain. So I can exile cards. And then just do that again. So I'm exiling his cards. And I've got so much life that I can just keep on doing it. Which, I mean, that's nice and all, but do I really need that? turn, I should just win. This isn't video game related, but I happened to wander around YouTube and see a review of something called the Milk Wars, which is a weird run of a DC kind of spin-off label, mostly I think centered around the Doom Patrol and a bunch of new characters or new versions of characters, but that exist in the DC universe or DC Earth 2. It was complete and total insanity amongst many issues. It seems like it probably came and went and got no coverage and was quickly forgotten for its complete and total insanity. It definitely feels a little weird seeing that as something that came out, I believe, in 2018 as from DC, and now I've seen at least one YouTuber speculate that the new reboot that I think is happening right now is DC's last chance on, as far as publishing comic books in total. In general, it's their last effort, and if it doesn't work, they're just going to potentially license out their characters to Disney and Marvel, which probably wouldn't be a bad idea. But I don't know if there's really too much else to say there, other than it was totally insane and very odd, because it's not, from my experience reading the New 52, even the side stories that were on Earth 2 and weren't part of the New 52 Earth 1 or Earth Prime universe, the story seemed realistic. Nothing went insane. Nothing was just ridiculously dumb. Don't get me wrong, there was some probably quite a lot of dumb stuff, just not ridiculous stuff. Milk Wars seems like they were just straight up making a joke of everything, which I don't think you can really do with comic book nerds, of which I don't really count myself, because I think they take it too seriously. If you're gonna do something comedic, you best be doing something like Teen Titans Go, something that is super cartoony and for young kids. I don't think you can do any main storyline character and not be realistic. Am I gonna win here? Let's see what we can do. Take that. Can't do anything with that. We attack with this. Destroy target creature. Fine, if you're going to destroy target creature, then I'll just deal 5 damage and sacrifice your own creature. 5 damage to kill a 1/1. So yeah, actually really didn't have anything to say about South by Southwest, other than, yeah, we are literally at this point just going to go down the list of every event, and as they happen, we're going to be asked if it is going to be canceled because of COVID, the coronavirus. These cards are upside down because I scryed so much. I have 3 cards remaining. Interesting. I guess that is a way to just help people's memories. There's really no reason to turn it upside down. So, if I could sacrifice a different creature, I could do 1 damage to one of these characters. I'm about to lose. I've got 1 more card. So we sacrifice. No, we're going to do 1 damage, and then have to sacrifice that, and then -1/-1 on this. But then this one's not going to be able to attack. So the only way I win is if this guy's dumb enough to attack. Or if this works. Which it doesn't. -1/-1. Attack. Yeah, he'll block, of course. I lose next turn. Boy, I'm not doing well. I went through that entire deck and played it so terribly that it still didn't matter. Constellation. I guess I was going to play all 3 of these decks anyways, but I didn't realize it was going to take 3 attempts to get 500 gold. Alright, so we've got an article here from Gamasutra, why Destiny 2 is leaving cosmetic loot boxes behind and working to balance the fear of missing out, FOMO. It's probably too little too late. Frankly, when Destiny became Destiny 2, considering how they were trying to make a game that they said would last for 10 years in Destiny 1, and that totally didn't happen, I think that's when you failed the concept of Destiny. I will generously say that the creators of Destiny and Destiny 2, if they were to make a new series that wasn't in the Destiny universe, and they were going to take everything that they've learned and they were going to make a new game that never had cosmetics and loot boxes, and really had something like a space Borderlands style game that people really wanted to play, that might be something that I would be consider playing. Unfortunately, it still doesn't really work, because Borderlands for me falls apart as soon as it is a game where you are intentionally making it so I have to constantly play it. Once it becomes yet another game like Magic Arena, where I'm just committing an infinite amount of time and energy to do basically the same thing over and over again. Once it becomes that online experience, I'm out. That's why I like Borderlands, because Borderlands, you can play it in single player mode. You're going to have a beginning, a medium, middle, and an end to a story. Once you've seen the story, you can be satisfied and be done with the story. Alright, so we're looking for things with constellations on it, I guess, more than anything else. So one can't block anyway, so we can just attack perfectly fine. So, yeah. Also, you run into the problem of Destiny 2 now gets backed into the next Halo game. And as soon as the next Halo game is out, that probably will take the entire player base of people who play Destiny 2 and several other games, and as long as the next Halo game is as good as it should be, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a good 4 to 8 year chunk of people just playing Halo games and getting back into Halo. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. The Division 2 is heading to Stadia this month with PC crossplay. One of the games that's coming to Stadia is going to have exclusive features on Stadia, which is crazy to say. Enchanted creatures. Enchant creature you control when this enters the battlefield. It gets +1/+1 and has trample. Hexproof until the end of the turn, and it gets +1/+1. Alright. Let's see what this does. You may choose not to untap this layer during untap stays. Target creature with power X or less doesn't untap during the controller's phase. That's gonna be useless. So all I can really do is this. And that gives it hexproof, but it still can't attack or block. So, yeah. Hexproof does not undo being enchanted if you're already enchanted. Good to learn. The Division 2 heading to Stadia is really not much news, because just on the simple fact that I don't think too many people care about the Division 2. I can't play that right now. So we play this instead. Next turn. We have a game on Steam here called Radis, which looks like a cell phone game. Looks like garbage, 89 cents, bunch of languages, and 11 achievements. It was a little interesting that Clue didn't have controller support also. You would kind of think that'd be fairly easy to program. We have a game on Steam here called Infini, which looks pretty crazy. We've got some crazy visuals here, but do we have an actual game, or do we just have a bunch of visual garbage? None of these. This looks like this is visual garbage. Yep. That's $11.99 English and French. So it's either pretentious over expensive art or it's visual garbage. To me it looks like MS Paint level graphics and garbage. I'm gonna try and burn through as many of these as fast as possible while we're playing here. We have a game on Steam called The Fallen, which looks a little bit more visually polished. I can't just immediately call this an asset flip horror game. It probably is a Dark Souls clone. It very possibly isn't that good. It's free and it's English only. I guess we put it on the fall list. I doubt I would do anything more than spotlight this. It's probably just a tech demo on somebody who wanted to make their own Dark Souls type game, not realizing that there was quite the team behind Dark Souls. +1/+1 and trample. Yes. One, two, and then you get rid of that, I guess. And then that taps that guy. And attack with that one. Gamatsu has the Famitsu sales for this week. Let's see, you have Pokemon Sword and Shield, Persona 5 Scramble Phantom Strikers, the Minecraft, Mario Kart Deluxe, Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mega Man Zero ZX Legacy Collection is new at the 6th place, and Ring Fit Adventures is selling way better than you would have thought. And then Persona 5 Scramble the Phantom Strikers limited editions included is in 8th place. So how can it be in 2nd place and 8th place? Because it's the PlayStation 4 version versus the Nintendo Switch version. And then you have Mario Party, Super Mario Party, and Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training for Nintendo Switch. So only one new game. It's been almost a month, and Nintendo Switch has just been raking it in as far as units sold in Japan. And yeah, Switch Lite is outselling the Switch this week, and PlayStation 4 in Pro is barely covering half of the sales of the original Switch, and nowhere covering the number of units sold of the Switch Lite. And Nintendo is still making good sales on the 2DS and 3DS, and the Xbox is still not selling basically anything. I don't, unfortunately, have the numbers for last week, which would be informative, to say the least. Is there? If I search hashtag Famitsu sales from last week, let's do a quick looking. We have last week's numbers where it was 30,000 Switch Lites. It's 35,000 units this week. The top selling game sold 115,000 units, and they were Persona games, but Sword and Shield also did 18,000 units. So why am I comparing it to last week? Because it's nearly 7,000 more Switch Lites were sold. There was like 10,000 more units of Sword and Shield? Because the Japanese kids are out of school because of the coronavirus, I think they're buying more video games and playing more video games. I imagine very much digitally also. Alright, now we just need to play ranked, standard ranked, and that's kind of all we need to do for the rest of the day, so that's good news. TechRaptor has an article here. Mario Kart Tour multiplayer release date has been announced. So Mario Kart, I thought it was called World Tour, is getting a multiplayer mode almost 6 months after launch, which is insane. And I don't think there's been any loyal fans of that cell phone game that are going to really spend a lot more time playing the game. once it does get multiplayer. Nintendo is definitely working from a very backwards perspective as far as getting into mobile games. They're doing it in a very slow paced way. Seems like this guy is probably trying to make me run out of cards. And he may actually have the chops to pull this off. So what I want to do is get this on the field relatively quickly. Play that. And I hate to do it, but I think we've got to go ahead and do this. Because he may have some cards that will get rid of my graveyard, so I'm going to take an extra effort to make sure the Cauldron Familiar does not stay in my graveyard at any point in which he can potentially exile all the cards in my graveyard. Otherwise, 19 more turns and I'll win. This is hardly going to act as a major hindrance. Well, maybe he can. Maybe he'll just be able to continuously counter my cards. We have a game on Steam here, Texas Hold'em Pokem Solo King. Unfortunately, the graphics don't look particularly good. This looks like something that would have been in the 90s, but it says it came out this year, right now. $6.99, but then it requires a third-party account and a third-party EULA. And one assumes that this isn't connecting you to some website to actually gamble, but I'm not sure if there isn't actually a gamble element here. It says no ads, but it's $6.99, so of course it shouldn't have any ads in it. That shouldn't even be a question. In fact, pretty much all games on Steam should have no ads on them. I don't know if any of them do, really, other than the fact that there's plenty of games that do put advertisements for other games, like EA advertising other EA products, but there hardly is an interface or a system that is available to put in ads like there is in Android. Or this is no good. I'm gonna go ahead and take that. And then go ahead and play that. I think I pretty much can play Bowl of Citadel next turn here and possibly win. Can't do anything more. Gamatsu has an article here for Resident Evil 3 Remake, 13 minutes of gameplay, so yeah, if you're interested in seeking that out, Gamatsu has that for you. It will be probably not super informative, and I would kind of argue against it, spoiling myself on Resident Evil 3, because they're already saying Resident Evil 3 is going to be shorter than Resident Evil 2 Remake, and if you're fully caught up and you played Resident Evil 7 and all the other Resident Evil games you want to play, and you played the remake of 1 and 2, exploring yourself on Resident Evil 3 is not going to be as fun or interesting as I think you might think it would be. So do I want to play the familiar? Yeah. So I can play this. I'm not gonna play this because this was cost 6 health, and I want to be a little bit more cautious than that since we're playing ranked. I probably could have just played that and potentially won. Right now, sacrifice. And put this on the field and sacrifice. And then we're just going to let that resolve. And we're going to see if he wants to play another card. Yep, so now I've got another Bola Citadel. I've got too many Bola Citadels on the field, clearly. So now it really is just a matter of how many cards do I need? I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need one more card. One more card. Or maybe I really don't even need one more card. I'm gonna let this resolve and see if he's got anything else he wants to do. And I've still got plenty of cards. So before I click my turn, activate the oven one more time. Put this on the field. There you go. We could do all sorts of things. We could sacrifice. Bring it back. We can make him eat his own characters. We could activate Bola Citadel. We had 3 different victories in the line there. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Zynga faces a class action lawsuit over the 2019 data breach. So if this lawsuit actually goes through, there's potentially some Worlds with Friends or Draw Something players out there who might get some money back, or some other kind of more likely identity protection for having their information stolen due to Zynga's lacking security. It's probably actually not going to see anything come out about around that though. In a similar story, a Brazilian esports League of Legends player apparently was found guilty in the way that the Brazilian law system works of not delivering products. So the weird thing is, as I understand, there's a lot of scams that happen in Portuguese Brazil. And the way it's been described is that while she was found guilty and sentenced initially to 130 years, the maximum actual sentence is 30 years, and she doesn't have to serve any of that sentence until all of her appeals are through. So there's a decent chance nothing is going to happen around that. It's not really even video game news that some esports person somewhere might have some kind of legal trouble. It's a bigger thematic story to push, and really it is more of a agenda pushing statement to say that a lot of lawlessness and desperation exists in Portuguese Brazil, which I think I probably should just be calling Brazil. And so there are a lot of people that run scams. There's a lot of people that do things that are technically illegal but never get caught. There are a lot of people that may not even know what they're doing is illegal. It certainly does line up with the large amount of games that support Portuguese Brazil as a language that are usually low effort asset flip games. I would say, generally speaking, if you can be convicted of what seems to be mostly just fraud crimes and sentenced to 130 years, but then the maximum sentence is 30 years whatsoever, there's kind of a disconnect between the intention of the laws at that point. Now, I imagine 30 years in a Brazilian prison might be the equivalent of 130 years in some other countries' prisons, but like, it does seem very weird. But I'll leave it at that. And again, it's not really video game news. Destroy target opponent's creature. Search the opponent for basic land? Sure. Go ahead and put that back on top. And play that. See, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Get a job. Game Closures hiring a back-end engineer in San Francisco, California, Mountain View, California, and Tokyo, Japan, and remote. What's interesting here is Game Closure is about the worst name you could give to a game company, if possible. I kind of wish I knew what games they've made, but yeah, it's probably just a bunch of mobile games if I was to venture a guess. Right, I'm just going to do no attacks. I really don't want to do any attacks until I get an oven. But apparently I'm gonna have to rethink my strategy somewhat now. Just found a way to get rid of all or two of my Cauldron familiars. I think we're gonna go with Bola Citadel as our solution now, if we can. But we still have a decent safety. Let's see. What does this say? Can't be blocked with creatures of power of 2 or less. That sucks. Which means I am going to quickly lose if I don't try some different strategy. I need to start attacking with this. And that'll buff this one up to 3. I guess maybe attack with this one and this one. And then that buffs that one up to a 4 or 5. And then I can block that one. TechRaptor has a article here. A written sticky-esque satirical action game called Redneck Ed Astro Monster has been announced. Which, okay. Another one of these weird cartoons that I don't think I've ever been a huge fan of weird cartoons. They feel like, and I'm fairly certain half of the people that make these kind of things are either doing acid or LSD or something. I guess that LSD and acid are the same thing. That one doesn't look so extremely crazy that I couldn't consider it, but also doesn't really strike me as particularly unique either. Okay. We've got Bola Citadel on the edge. See, this one has Death Touch, so I could attack here and let it die, or I could attack here with flying and attack here with flying. Yeah, I think we kind of got this, actually. Unless he can take me out in the next turn, which maybe he will be able to. Yeah. Fox even has a new Family Guy type competitor show that they're trying to air. They're still pushing their animation domination concept as far as it can go. And frankly, I just don't think it works as well as they want it to work. Let's see. That's right, block it. Block it or don't block it, doesn't matter. You're gonna have to block the other one, too. Yeah, you've lost. That's the point. The point here is, at the end of this turn, regardless of what you do, you're down to 1 life at most. And you can only do 7 damage at the moment. Gamatsu has an article. An unannounced Star Wars Project Maverick listing has been put on the PlayStation Store, so potentially there's a new Star Wars game. It was on the PlayStation Store in Europe. I don't know. I don't know if this is a placeholder for something that's possibly been already announced, or if it's just going to be something that is kind of out of the blue. I wouldn't be surprised, though, considering how there's been at least 2, if not 3 or 4 Star Wars games canceled in recent time. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody accidentally published or intentionally published the listing for a game that's already been canceled. At the end of the day, the number of good Star Wars games that have come out in the past decade probably can be counted on one hand. So, yeah, one more Star Wars game to get hyped about seems almost like it's an annual occurrence these days. Even that latest Star Wars game, which seems to be perfectly fine, didn't get any major coverage in the long haul. People played it and they were like, it's alright, but it's not great. So he wants me to destroy. Do I want to do that? If I get Bull Citadel, I probably would win. If I get Cauldron Familiar, I'll probably win. If I just attack now, probably won't win. Yeah, I think I lost. I had a lot of opportunity to win, and I stole defeat from the jaws of victory. Yeah. I got nothing. Too much swampland. Unless he's just gonna be really stupid and let this one go through. Yep, I lost there. We have a game on Steam called Baron Fur is Gonna Fly, which seems like it's a fly around air combat game where you play as an animal, but the graphics look very 2D and way too colorful on a way too red background, and just not enough visual polish there. The idea of a Star Fox game actually coming to Steam would be actually very nice. I'm a little surprised that somebody hasn't tried to do something like that. This is $19.99, way too expensive, and it's English, Chinese, and Japanese, so take your pick on who you want to blame on that one. Might as well block. My precious pips are going away. Next we have a game on Steam called Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail, which looks like it is a strategy naval game with some nice animation to it, but also possibly just a little too much going on in general. Looks like it needs a little bit more UI. I'm gonna put this on the follow list and see if people like it. $39.99, English only. Maybe I'd take it off the follow list because of that price alone. I'll leave it on the follow list, but that is extremely expensive. So it probably isn't going to make it to the wish list. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article. Control and Death Stranding are leading the BAFTA Game Awards in 2020 nominations, which again feels weird feels weird that non-British companies, as I understand it, I don't think the creators of Control, and I know the creators of Death Stranding are not British, because Kojima is Japanese, and if most of his team is hired from locals, they would be United States people, United Statesians, not British citizens. Meanwhile, they've got other listings here of other games that clearly aren't British in total. You can look at the whole list here, I guess, if you're interested, but I think we'll probably just scroll down through this fairly quickly and not mention anything. Yeah, this is the game I was talking about, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. An alright game, just not amazingly good. Not talked about for half a year later. It really goes to show that the pressure is on for British people to make, British companies to make good games, particularly now that they've embraced Brexit. The pressure is on, I think, in general for Britain to prove to itself and the outside world that it can succeed on its own and be successful on its own, and do better outside of the European Union than inside of it. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of naysayers that are going to say, I told you so. And that certainly is a tall order, but there should be more British video game developers out there. In a funny way, as they are talking about potentially getting rid of the BBC as a publicly funded channel, they could take the money that they give to the BBC and give it to a lot of other companies to make other forms of entertainment or do other things with it. They certainly could also rethink how much money they're giving to their royalty. Well, I've got to do this. I shouldn't have done that right then, but whatever. Sorry if you can hear me chewing on ice. I shouldn't be doing that, but nonetheless, it's happening. Alright. Here we go. We attack with this one. We attack with this one. And we go ahead and attack with this one. And we'll see if he wants to block anything. Okay. Is that how you want to play it? Alright, well then we'll just do it. And then we'll sacrifice this. Put this back on the field. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here behind the Jackie Chan inspired combat game Bloodroots. So the thing I would say here as we look at this trailer is I watched a movie with Jackie Chan in it relatively recently. And he played a very old man who did like no action at all, and that is probably a very accurate description of where Jackie Chan is in his career. He mostly was that even when he was doing the voice acting for the cartoon Jackie Chan Adventures. Like he's by the time the Westerners were forced kind of into seeing a lot of Jackie Chan, he was pretty old, and he's really old now. I don't think we're going to see any new movies of him doing tricks. It is also worth mentioning that Jackie Chan is highly promoted by the Chinese government and speaks very positively of the Chinese government as a way of gaining cultural influence. Looking at this game, I think it's a little lazy to call this a Jackie Chan inspired thing, or Jackie Chan inspired. Yeah, even if the creator was inspired by Jackie Chan, nothing I see here is more than just manic mayhem, high action, which you can describe a lot better without referencing a celebrity who is again aging and has less of a understandable reference. This game itself seems interesting enough. It is one of those games where it is going to be either really hard to play or really easy to play, or have a bunch of quick time events in it, and half the actions you're doing aren't actually under your direct control. And if it gets too easy to play, then it won't be that fun. If it's too hard to play, it won't be that fun. And you're asking yourself for a lot of pain and suffering when it comes to programming all the physics and all the animation and all the systems that you need to have so much interactivity in your world. There's a reason why in most games all the buttons and all the levers and all the punches and all the kicks look very similar or exactly the same. It's because somebody has to get into the minutiae and the details of programming all of that. And while the trailer did already seem to show that had been animated and programmed, that's pretty much just a demo. Once you have a person controlling what happens, I imagine you'll see a lot more glitches, a lot more weirdness, a lot more awkwardness in what happens. That's why so many game developers these days don't even really try to have an end goal experience, and instead just make systems on top of systems, like the Hitman series. Like, while the Hitman developers may have a general idea of how they expect an assassination mission to go in Hitman, they mostly are just building systems on top of systems so that you can do it in a incalculable number of ways. What do we want to do here? Yeah, we'll go ahead and play that. And then no attacks. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Get a job, Industrial Toys is hiring a senior software engineer. This is a weird logo for a company called Industrial Toys. It's in Pasadena. They say they're a AAA mobile developer, founded by Halo veteran Alex Seropian. Maybe it's a brand new company, but I don't know what you mean when you say AAA mobile developer, because pretty much all mobile games right now feel like they are at best a single A and at worst a straight F. That's what I needed. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Deep Space Banana, which looks visually polished enough. Let's see. Looks like it's a space game And as much as I hate space games, this kind of feels like this might be a strategy capitalism simulator game, or on top of being a 4X game. And I kind of like the idea of monkeys in space. So I found a space game I actually might be willing to play. The problem though is it's single player and online PvP with in-app purchases, and it's English, German, and Russian, which is a little suspicious but not really. It's the in-app purchases that are the problem. If this wasn't a free-to-play game with in-app purchases, I'd put this on the wish list. And the first time I've seen a space game in probably 3 or 4 years that actually interests me, and it has to be a free-to-play garbage. Bring more space monkeys into your space games. You'll convince at least one person to put it on his wish list. I think that is probably a decent argument to make, though, is that there's far too many space games where it's just humans in space, when if you're in outer space, why not have a whole bunch of aliens or weird looking creatures? What do we want to do now? Do we want to kill this guy? Not yet. Next we have a game on Steam called Weekless, which looks to me like it is a game where you play as a plant creature, which is interesting, and you are in a rather polished kind of tree plant forest world. I don't know if this is early access or if there's just a significant part where you're in a detective mode of black and white. But yeah, this looks like a real game. It's weird to see a real game. It's weird that this is $13.49. But I'm gonna put it on the follow list. And hopefully the follow list doesn't come back and tell me that this is like a 30-minute experience of just no real importance. It might be. You know, I've seen a lot of games that look nice and look heavily polished, and then they just completely run out of budget. And because they run out of budget, they're really short. Rhyme is a example of a game like that, where it felt like it would have been perfectly fine and not anywhere as short as it was, and Rhyme wasn't even particularly that short, but it did lack features and lack abilities. This one doesn't have death touch, right? Well, he took out the guy, but I got the benefit, mostly anyways. So now we can just attack for 4 turns and we'll win. Next we have a game on Steam called Battle for Iwo Jima, which you don't see a lot of military games based around Iwo Jima. It doesn't look like there really is anything here though. As a strategy militaristic simulator, it looks pretty bad, and $12.99 is way too expensive for the level of graphics I'm seeing. So that's going to be a pass. Oh, he managed to kill my guy. So now what? I'm just waiting for bowl of cereal, I guess. We have a game on Steam called The Adventures of Loppy, which looks like a platformer that I would say is not animated well enough to be considered worth playing. Seems like you're playing as a tiny little unicorn creature. $5.99 discounted English and Russian. Nah, I don't think there's anything there of interest. Let's see. Komatsu has an article here. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is now available for iOS and Android, so you can now play it on the go. Which, you know, Konami's not making a mistake doing that. For as much as they probably are making a mistake in every other way they handle the video game licenses they own, putting an old game like Castlevania that's beloved on cell phones is not bad. Now, is this a good port? Does this play well? Or is this just going to be a terrible low-effort port that is in no way worth owning or playing? I don't have that information, and there's no real follow list on iOS and Android to really figure that out. There actually is a wish list on Google Play Store. I just found it, so I didn't even know it existed. But yeah, if they do a good job of porting it to PC, that at least opens a doorway in which Konami's old games could be ported to mobile platforms, and at least people could enjoy them somewhat well. Maybe it would even convince Konami to get back into making good games, although I think the odds of that are pretty low. So yeah, I would not give Konami the benefit of the doubt by any means, but I can't just also say they're being greedy by doing the thing that I think most people would want to see them do at bare minimum. I mean, they're being no more greedy than any other company porting out their games to cell phone things. I think I've lost here. Yep. That sucks. Certainly. I'm gonna have to rush here to really get all of this done. I've still got a ton to cover. We have a game here called the Tide Intro, which looks like it's a combination of some weird animations, and that's pretty much it. This trailer seems to just show a bunch of weirdness of different kinds of animations. English is not supported. It requires VR. It's 99 cents. It's Korean only. So it's like some weird Korean VR story that they're trying to tell. But this is just the intro. And maybe this is a tie-in to some movie or something coming out of Korea. I wouldn't be surprised. But since English is not supported, I guess there's nothing I can really do. Let's see. Komatsu has an article here. Record of the lowest war Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth. Steam Early Access release date has been moved up one day to March 12th. This is not real information worth mentioning. Although apparently this is a Metroidvania game, which I find interesting because I would have sworn the record of Lotus War games would have been the record of series would have been a JRPG series. So is this some kind of spin-off? I'm gonna put this on the follow list and we'll see. Yeah, a spin-off game for the record of the Lotus War, which I think is the same series as Record of the Argus War. Maybe not. That's record of something, of some war. It's probably translated very easily from Japanese. It's probably a phrase that gets used a lot. It's weird, the developer is called Why So Serious, and the only other game they've made is something called Gensokyo Night Festival, which is rated very positively. So we may have a new player coming up from a company called Why So Serious / Team Ladybug. Alright, so I guess I'll just want to keep an eye on Record of the Lotus War Deed Lit in Wonder Labyrinth. In a weird way, they did totally trick me there by moving their early access release date up forward once. They totally got something in front of my eyes that I hadn't seen before. So I guess you can't completely argue with the Japanese strategy of just trying to make as much news as possible always. Let's see if I can pull this off. Yes, I can. Alright. How do we want this to go? We're gonna want to play this next gen, so what we probably want to do is just attack, and do as much damage as possible. Next we have this game that we already talked about, that's just a bunch of Japanese characters being spelled out. It's a really long title, you can kind of tell. And the trend of light novels having very long titles, that getting converted over to video games is not something I'd like to see. This is the Lady Detective visual novel game, where English is not supported. $14.99 Japanese only, so still can't really put it on the follow list because it's sadly only Japanese language. Down on the field. Oh, and put that on the field. Next, we have a game on Steam called Timeless Paradox VR, which looks like it is probably a VR Japanese game. It's way too bright. Maybe in VR the brightness settings are different, but I've never really seen that with any other game. And it looks crazy and looks kind of interesting if any of the images would load. It's $17.99. It's English only, which I would have thought it would have Japanese. I almost certainly would have thought it was Japanese. So you have something here that looks like it's some kind of anime that I question heavily is actually a game. Is this actually a game? Single player action adventure game. Combines JRPG with a story-rich element. In VR. That's some insanity. There's an actual game here. Alright, let's put it on the follow list and see what happens. Taps that guy. And while we're at it, we'll just eat one of these foods. Time Paradox VR. Might be terrible, might be great. Seems really bright though. So that is something to keep in mind. Gamasutra has an article here. Tiny Build and Guts and Glory developer Hackjack opens a new studio in Idaho. You don't hear a lot of stories of game companies starting new studios in Boise, Idaho, or Idaho in general. So that's interesting.
We're gonna tear you apart.
It certainly would probably be helpful if we had less video game development studios in California and New York. I've gone on that rant. The groupthink is too large, and having some offices in some different regions where people deal with different people and potentially think a different way and aren't all just in a circle jerk mentality of homogenized social justice warrior thinking probably would be great. But I mean, there are active attempts to ensure that doesn't happen, so it's kind of a matter of question as to how successful you really could do with that, or be with that. Okay. One more hit and I'll be win. Next we have a game on Steam called Bonfire, which seems to have a character that looks like a weird cartoon, or a couple weird cartoons, although there is kind of a softness to the way it's being animated because it's in 3D, so it might be weird characters in a decent game. Although what I'm seeing here makes it seem like you're in space flying around and then you crash and just have a conversation talking to weird people in VR. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. $4.99, English full audio. Yeah, it feels like you basically just have an interactive conversation with them. I'm gonna put that on the follow list to see if people would actually buy that game and be interested in it. But it does kind of feel like the Rick and Morty VR game and so many other VR games where you are mostly just being talked to and mostly just having a short, almost barely interactive cartoon experience. TechRaptor has an article here. Funcom Q4 2019 financial call teases a new Conan Exiles DLC, an investment made into 10 games. Kind of forgot Conan Exiles still was being worked on. 10 new games is quite a lot for Funcom, I would also argue. That's probably too many.
My, how you've grown.
Particularly when you look at it from the perspective that I have to look at it, that Conan Exiles, while it did have some interesting ideas, none of those got fleshed out. It did have the Conan license, and it really didn't do anything with that. And it mostly tried to sell itself on dong sliders and genitalia sliders when you custom create your characters in Conan Exiles, which then made the game a lot less streamable because you then have to turn on the censorship to play it on any website, whether that's Twitch or YouTube or whatever. And even at that point, then there's the risk there of other characters, other players making the assumption, and the platforms themselves making the assumption that you're trying to do something lewd. At the core of it, the best I could ever understand as far as Conan Exiles is it was a survival game, much like Rust, but not as popular as Rust, that eventually you could summon eldritch old gods to fight on your behalf, but that was pretty repetitive and boring to do. I've lost here. Unless I can figure out... I mean, I could get Bola Citadel, and that would save me somewhat. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Deathbloom Chapter 2, which looks like it's a horror adventure game of some quality. $9.99, English full audio. So then the question is, can we find Deathbloom Chapter 1, and is it rated positively? It came out March 16th, 2019. It looks a lot like the Chapter 2 does, a lot of dark screenshot syndrome, but it is rated positively, so I'll put it on the follow list and give it some more time to think about. There is kind of a problem, I would say, having a game that looks a lot like Resident Evil and then breaking it up into multiple chapters. Sure, Capcom got away with doing that, but I don't think anybody else is going to fall for that trick. Yeah, this definitely feels like this is a heavily inspired by Resident Evil type game. And I don't know how many chapters they think they can get away with.
This will be fun to watch.
Into. What is this guy trying to do? He's got plenty of cards and he can probably win. It seems like he's just kind of jerking me around. But Bola Citadel still is a way to win, so I can't just concede and lose. So we'll just cover the news, which is fine, I guess. OpenCritic has an article. New games for PlayStation now include Control and Shadow of the Tomb Raider and more, which there's almost a year, I would say, between the release of Control and the release of Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So why did it take so long for Shadow of the Tomb Raider to come to PlayStation now? Other games are Dead or Alive 5, NASCAR Heat, Knights of Azure 1 and 2, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 13, Toukiden 2, and Kiwami, which usually is the remake of 1, I would guess. Wolfenstein Warriors All-Stars, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. This guy is just not attacking. He's just playing his strategy. Well, we will see. We will see how well this strategy works. Like, everything has trample. All he has to do is start attacking. This is barely video game news, but Gamasutra has an article here. Google's called off I/O 2020 dev conference over coronavirus concerns. It's barely video game news in my opinion because of Stadia, which is barely video game related at this point because it is so irrelevant. Next we have a game on Steam called Fighting Clans, which looks like it is a street fighting game of some sort. It doesn't look terrible. It looks like maybe it only has like 3 or 4 locations and maybe only 2 or 3 enemy types. It's early access. It's $6.39, which just seems like a reasonable price. So I'm going to put it on the follow list. If it can come out of early access, if it can actually do something, I'm willing to give it a chance. Oops. Well, that... And I don't think that's going to work as well as he thought it was going to work. He's just trying to draw every single card. Like, what's the one card he's looking for? He's got 15 cards, and he's scrying for all of them. It feels like people who play some of these strategies, this one perhaps in particular, just stick...
Stomping time.
They just stick to that strategy too closely when they could have just taken the victory earlier. Alright. So he's gonna attack, and he's gonna attack, and he's gonna attack. Alright. And then we block this one, which will do the most amount of damage. Click block. And then we will simply sacrifice this. And then we'll put that back on the field. And even taking 2 blows here. That didn't cancel his attack. Interesting. And I guess the others would have trample too. So he may have beaten me. Unless I can do something crazy. This is probably not crazy enough. I probably lost. Next we have a game on Steam called Snowball First Person Shooter, which looks like a low effort asset flip game. I'm not even seeing any snowballs in any of the screenshots. It's $1.59, it's English only. I'm not interested. maybe we're getting close to the point where we left off last Monday, or this Monday, so maybe if I can just make it to that point, I'll not be working backwards. TechRaptor has an article here. The Teamfight Tactics Galaxy Pass is bringing new content in Cosmics to a game called Teamfight Tactics that I don't even recognize. The name sounds slightly familiar, and that's about it. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Nocturne Prelude, which on first look looks like a RPG Maker game, but then it's tagged as a rhythm free-to-play RPG. And these characters do look different. But I think they probably hurt themselves by putting RPG elements in a game that they're claiming is a rhythm game. It's free, it's English only, and it looks like it's pretty basic and probably really short. Yeah, there's this whole rhythm element here, and I don't see why you would want to do that. The rhythm is in the fight mechanics of the RPG. TechRaptor has some good news for you all. DuckTales Remastered has pogoed its way back to digital stores. They probably took it down to promote the Saturday morning collection of the original DuckTales game and force people to buy the original version. That's the only thing I can understand. The TechRaptor thinks it's a licensing issue between Capcom and Disney. That seems to me to be less likely, but still possible for sure. Ooh. Okay. Is there something we can do here? I should have held on to this card just as a threat. See, that just got his life back up. But he probably takes me out this turn. TechRaptor really doesn't have anything new to say about DuckTales Remastered. I would say go check out my playlist. I covered it relatively recently. I recommend people playing it on easy and owning the remastered version. Probably a lot easier to play the remastered version than it is to play the original version. Now, I don't know what the actual state of the current DuckTales cartoon is, or if it's a big deal or not. It seems kind of silly that they would have taken it off the storefront and taken so long to negotiate things, but maybe. If it really was an issue where Capcom was being the difficult party negotiating some kind of agreement with Disney, it would just be more evidence to Disney to not bother with dealing with video games, which is pretty much their attitude at the moment, I think anyways. And they will license out a few things to make a video game around it, but even then, if license negotiations are not worth their time, well, yeah, we've clearly lost now. Excessive 174 damage. I guess we'll play one more game and see if we can get up in ranked. TechRaptor has an article here. Coronavirus game lets players try to create a real-world medicine. This looks like a folding, protein folding simulator, like the Folding at Home project, which was something that you used to be able to donate your CPU processing power to help people do protein folding and try to figure out how things work. This one's called Fold It, and I don't know if it's a real game. It also says you have to progress through quite a few basic puzzles before you're able to try the coronavirus game aspect of Fold It. Which that's not helpful, certainly. I don't know if the Folding at Home project and the other one I know of was the SETI project, SETI at Home or something like that was the name of it, where the search for extraterrestrial life. I don't know if those projects really have any reason for people to donate their CPU processing power. Because maybe there is still a reason because of just funding and people donating their electricity and their CPU computer stuff might actually still be helpful. On the other hand, a lot of universities and a lot of the projects have massive servers and massive processor farms to do that stuff, and if they've got university funding, it may just be more efficient to keep everything in-house. On the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised if the SETI project in particular is really underfunded. The one thing to take away from it is I've known about the SETI project and the Folding at Home project for probably 20 years now, and I think the Folding at Home project did one thing of use with all the donated things. They probably have learned a lot, but actual substantive, like, we succeeded because people helped us type stories don't come out with any regularity. So it does kind of feel like you're just wasting your own electricity. And on the other hand, there is this argument that if you turned off your computer, you would use less electricity, you'd contribute less to global warming. You probably are doing better to turn off your computer once in a while than you are to leave it running. Plus, it would burn out your equipment and use up your equipment faster if you leave it running, which means you would have to buy new computer components, which is horribly bad for the environment because of all the rare earth minerals that are required to build electronic computer parts. Moving on, TechRaptor has the article, Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary PC release has arrived. So, yeah. I think this would be the remaster of the first game. So this is the Combat Evolved with better graphics and several improvements across the board. Alright. I'm not sure if you had purchased the Halo collection before, which I think is really the only way you can get Halo on Steam. Any of the Halos. I'm not sure if you had Combat Evolved but it was the unimproved, the default original version, or if this is the first time that the first game has been available on Steam. Or, yeah. Moving on, we have the Political Machine 2020, which is mixed reviews. Clearly this is supposed to be a topical type game. It doesn't actually look as bad as it probably could have, but you can see it's mixed reviewed already. It's $14.99. It's English only. Let's see. I really enjoyed the previous game in the series. They could have just changed the candidates issues from 2016 and it would have been much better than this. This is a bare bones version of the previous games and it's way too short. Very not good. So even the fans of these politically inspired games are not happy with this version. Alright, so that clearly doesn't need to be on the follow list then. Gamma Sutra has an obituary here for the arcade game designer and programmer Tim Skelly. Let's see if they have a list of what he made. He created the first 3D arcade fighter, pioneering co-op play, and designing a respawn system. So he designed a number of influential vector-based arcade titles for Cinematronics, Ripoff, Starhawk, Armor Attack, Star Castle. All eventually were ported to the Vectrix home console. So another first generation video game designer who, at least by the obituary I'm looking at, did not really work on any games in the past 3 or 4 decades. Which seems about right. The first generation game designers, with perhaps the exception of Nintendo developers, Donkey Kong, Shigeru Miyamoto and such, most of those people are really weren't embraced once they started making console games more than anything else. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Puddle Knights, which is an interesting concept. You're this knight with a long sash and you have to cover the muddy puddles so that the queen does not get her long flowing skirt dirty. It's an interesting puzzle concept. I can't think of an equivalent of this. It's almost like the opposite of a game like Snake or something along that lines. It's $11.69 in English only with 14 achievements. There's a couple of risks here. It could be really short. It could be really simplistic. It is basically a one-screen Unity puzzle game, but it does have some decent art to it. But those could be asset flips, certainly. But still decent art, nonetheless. I'm going to put this on the follow list, but that price is a lot higher than I think it should be. This would be a game closer to $6.99 with some promises of 300 plus puzzles. It says it has 100 plus puzzles. 100 is kind of the bare minimum, and you kind of know that some of these puzzles are going to be really short. So there's a lot to take from that. A lot of problems there. But maybe if it's highly reviewed and it gets a decent sale, at that point I might be willing to give it a try. I guess we're going for a Bola Citadel win since we have so many people ready to go. Game Sutra has an article here. Erica developer Flavorworks nets $650,000 to further develop tactile full motion video tech. What's the tactile part of it? Yeah, I don't see the idea where the word tactile comes in there, because tactile to me means something you can touch. They weren't doing anything with their game that gave you like some kind of controller or something. It blends live action footage, they say, with tactile choices to deliver a movie-esque gameplay experience. Tactile choices meaning it's a point and click adventure and you click on something and touch something. One of the missed games, there were things you could click on all over the place, and they classified everything as being either a fire, earth, or water element. So if you clicked on like a cooking pot, that in the background system was classified as a fire element, and at the end of the game you got 1 of 3 endings based on the things you clicked on the most. Interesting concept, but in actual application it pretty much failed miserably, and it did nothing at all. You almost certainly got the fire ending. I definitely got the fire ending, and I don't think I was anywhere close to potentially getting any of the other endings. And I don't think the way I play games there would be any way for me to get anything but the ending I got. So, yeah. Alright, let's do this. We need to attack with this, this, and this. And we're just gonna work this guy down. But yeah, I do think tactile is the wrong way to describe that. I think you're being less than honest there, or less than accurate. Gotta tap that guy so he can't even block. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Of Evil and Darkness, which looks like it's just some stock images. Kind of feels like they're trying to do almost a Telltale game in visual novel style. But yeah, this just looks bad quality. And even in the trailer you can see there's no motion or anything here. $2.69 I think is probably close to the right price for something that looks like this. Still, even at that, I'm not going to put it on the follow list. Let's see. Click next. Yeah, he's not defending with anything. Come on, come on, come on. Next we have a game on Steam called Amoeba Battle Microscopic Real-Time Strategy Adventure. Is there something visually here I want to look at? No, it looks like it's just a big mess of colors. $13.49, also too expensive. A long list of online options and player versus player options. Decent list of languages and third-party EULAs. I don't know if this is supposed to be something like an ag.io game that has more polish on it, but the color palette really turns me off. So, yeah, I'm not interested. You know what I should have done is I probably should have sacrificed the one that was gonna die anyways. But whatever. TechRaptor has an interesting article. Borderlands 2 update advertising Borderlands 3 breaks the game. On February 27th, Borderlands 2 was updated and it appears that as though it has introduced bugs, performance, and matchmaking issues. This Reddit thread from Reddit user Dukarian explains players are now forced to create shift profile names, which also becomes the player's in-game name. Previously, the player's Steam name would be shown. That no longer seems to be the case. The shift name must also be unique, and the game will now no longer allow players to play the game that they purchased until the profile is created, even if they have no intention of enabling crossplay. Apparently, let's play. Let's keep on playing. Apparently, according to a few Steam reviewers, which have been remarkably negative, 76% recently compared to an overall positive of 95% on average. Compatibility between the Windows and Mac versions is now broken as well. Apparently, Borderlands pre-sequel was also hit by this update, with users complaining the game's online is unplayable because the shift isn't working, or that the update broke all of the mods and introduced intrusive Borderlands 3 ads into the main menu. Which, this is something Valve might want to have a conversation about and put an end on. It certainly has been a case of too many people being allowed to just put ads for other games into their current games and cross-promote to a ridiculous level. Just gonna go ahead and just attack with pretty much everything. A post on a Steam forum also explains that there's a way to remove aggressive Borderlands 3 advertising for Borderlands 2, which has players delete and rename a specific folder. Another post on the forum states that they were able to play Borderlands 2 online for many hours without issue before the update. After the update, there are repeated lockups, and the user group finds that the game is no longer playable as a group. Apparently, there are also bugs such as vending machines killing players and vehicles being one-shot kills have been introduced in the game, which seems to have taken a dramatic turn for the worse since February 27th update. Okay, that's some straight up insanity. I kind of have to admit it, but who thought that was a good idea to add so much new to an old game and do it so badly? Like, I could kind of see promoting Borderlands 3 and that's it, but then forcing people in the shift, changing any of the game code at all when it was working fine, that's stupidity. And I guess the good news is I don't really listen to Randy Pitchford, so I don't have to hear any of his stupidity. Or perhaps this really is more 2K's fault. somehow. I don't know how. Maybe they shut down half their servers with this update, or I kind of need to go now launch Borderlands 2 and see if I have a Steam name, or if I have a Steam profile, shift name, shift profile. I think I do. I've just been collecting the shift codes and using them on the shift website. But yeah, it seems to me highly suspect that perhaps they've made their old games run worse on Steam as a way of possibly convincing people not to play the games on Steam and instead play them on the Epic Store, which that kinda doesn't make sense. Unless Randy Pitchford really is doing something insane that I wouldn't put past him, but it would be insane, where he's trying to ensure that there's bad sales on the Steam storefront for Borderlands 3 by creating this negative association around it. That way it still seems like it was the right move to go with the Epic Store exclusivity, which I think most people would probably agree is not the case, really. I'm gonna cough and hurt my back at this rate. Alright, this will be our last game, and I think we can pull this off. Let's see. Master has an article. Skater XL adds a PlayStation 4 version to its plans. Interesting. Skater XL potentially does have the opportunity to be the next big thing. Right, this would kill that. Do I really need to kill that? I'm gonna sacrifice this guy. I'm going to let that one die. And then that lets me play this, bring it back. And then that lets me sacrifice it again. And win. We kind of made 2 pips in all of today. That's about all the progress we made, and 4 victories out of the 5 victories. And Heroes of Theros has ended, which I didn't even realize that was going to be that short of an event. It almost makes me wonder if there are events that I have missed in the past. There's a historic event here. What does this cost? 500 gold to get 1,000 gold. Yeah, that's nothing. And just traditional historic standard event, ranked draft, Theros Beyond Death, sealed War of Spark, and then the other thing, Brawlers Guild Hall, which Brawlers Guild Hall is the thing they're promoting. Spend $12.50 in money so that you can get a card and play Brawl whenever you want. I guess the daily deals rotated over. And yeah, there's nothing there of interest. Like every 24 hours or so, they're gonna tell you they've got something new to sell. Let's see. There's a review here for a tabletop game. Yeah, that's what I thought it was, so we don't have to talk about that. Let's see. Komatsu has an article. Azure Striker Gunvolt Striker Pack Physical Edition for the PS4 has been announced for the West. So if you wanted the physical edition of the Gunvolt game, it's coming for the West, not just an English version. We're gonna just burn through as much as we can. I think we can get through everything. We have a game on Steam here called Star Souls, which looks like a space flying around shooting game with kind of nothing of interest on it. If you told me this came out in the 90s, I would believe you. It's $7.99, a little too expensive, English, full audio. Nothing more to say there. Let's see. For the PC, PS4, and Xbox One, Curse of the Dead Gods has added the PS4 and Xbox One version. It's available now on PC, Steam of Early Access. Looks like it's a roguelike action game from the looks of it. I don't recognize this. I think I would recognize a name by that description, or a name like that. But yeah, I have not seen anything like this. Looks like it's kind of going on a Mayan look. There's some weirdness. Definitely some weirdness that I wouldn't have seen this. When did this come out? March 3rd. Yeah. It wasn't on my follow list. It was just missed. Yeah, I don't know. I've been certainly going through a lot. It's reasonable to assume I've been making some mistakes or missing some stuff. Next, we have a game on Steam called Infiltra, which looks like a top-down twin-stick shooter game with some also large amounts of darkness and dark screenshot syndrome. Early access, $11.99, too expensive. English full audio. Is this even single player only? Yes, it is. Because for a second there, it felt more like it might be a player versus player game. That's uninteresting. Let's see. Komatsu has an article here. A new Ben 10 game is coming to consoles and PC this fall. Ben 10 apparently still popular. I don't know if they're on the second iteration of Ben 10, or if they've moved on to a third or a remake, or if they're still just running the first iteration and it's just been going for a very long time. I feel like at some point they kind of rebooted it and remade or changed the animation. Next, we have an Open Critic article here. Pokemon Go's March events have been announced. I wouldn't be surprised if there are any real public Pokemon Go events that they get canceled because of the coronavirus though. So those events being announced may quickly be canceled, or perhaps you shouldn't go even if they aren't canceled. Next, TechRaptor has this provocative title. Bloodstained roguelike stretch goal is not happening. So roguelike would have meant that you died and you got some kind of experience and then things randomized, which would be very different for a Castlevania game like Bloodstained. I still definitely want to get around to playing Bloodstained. It's one of those games, one of those games that doesn't go on sale, and I just haven't gotten around to it. Instead, it's been replaced with a randomizer mode, which is kind of the same thing. I guess not really a big difference there. This is potentially another pitfall of a Kickstartering a game, in the sense that a Kickstarter goal was funded and now he is not really delivering the thing he promised, instead offering something different. Let's see. The code for roguelike was created early in the game's development and is incompatible with how the game turned out, meaning it will not be released. However, there will be a randomizer mode released in its place, allowing players to choose up to 8 different game parameters to randomize during the playthrough. Let's see. They will have seeds. Yeah. 8 different parameters, though, depending on the values you put in a parameter, may not be a lot. So that probably is a lot less than what a roguelike the amount of parameters you would have in a roguelike. Otherwise, he would just be calling this new randomizer mode the roguelike mode. In fact, it probably would be better business to just call the new randomizer mode the roguelike mode and disappoint people slightly. I don't think you're going to have too much of an outcry for Bloodstained fans if they get a new feature and it's not as good as they had hoped. This might be an example of a Japanese creator being a little too honest. Moving on, Shinsuke Kodama, known for Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, and Mega Man Star Force, has left Capcom. Kodama is off to pursue a new challenge. So, yeah. That's big. Mega Man Star Force, I don't know how popular that is, but it is certainly no small loss when you lose the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney creator. It also makes me wonder if the Phoenix Wright games that haven't come to the West maybe now would have even less of a chance of coming to the West, because there were some Phoenix Wright stories set in the past that were too much like Sherlock Holmes, and they were, I think Capcom was afraid to bring it to the West without fear of getting sued. It'll be interesting to see if this guy goes into making other games, or if he's going to a different industry completely. The response here, the quote is, "It's a personal matter, but I left Capcom at the end of February to pursue a new challenge. That being the case, I would like to continue to support Ace Attorney series from the outside." So, yeah. Maybe he's going to do something completely different. Maybe he's just retiring. Next we have a game called Void TRLM, or Void Terrarium. Is coming to the West. This was the weird game where you have a weird anime fish coral girl. She's like made out of coral, it seems. This one was definitely one that looked like something that wouldn't have come to the West. And yeah, I don't know how much of a game this is, or what kind of game it really is. But I guess we'll see. We'll see if it comes to the West, and we'll see what people have to say about it. I imagine it's a game that YouTubers will at least want to cover for a brief time for its weirdness. Gamma Sutra has an article. Zordix acquires the mobile dev Invictus Games. Let's see. Invictus is behind Give It Up and Froggy Jump, 2 games I don't recognize. Yep, a little too inside baseball, that article. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam, Return to Shiron Nagasu Island, which looks like it's a horror visual novel. It's not quite widescreen, but it also not really a 4:3 ratio. So I have no idea what ratio this is supposed to be. English is not supported. It's $3.99, which makes me think it's probably a Chinese visual novel more than a Japanese visual novel. But take your pick. Either way, it doesn't have full audio in either one of those languages. And its animation looks a little off in some screenshots. Yeah, it doesn't seem particularly good. Gamatsu has an article here, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC launches March 24 alongside a free update for the Switch, which unfortunately all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Games tend to look pretty bad. They just don't have the budget to redo the art on a lot of the cards. They need to like reprint all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in general and update the way those things look. You can collect over 10,000 cards in this one game. It seems to be covering probably at least the first 5 series of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you like Yu-Gi-Oh! This is maybe a good game, but a lot of the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Games have now it's 6 series actually of Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, they never put enough effort into it. They never get the graphics interesting enough. If hopefully they program the cards so they play right. This looks like you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Instead of the mobile phone one where you could only put, like, you only had 3 spaces instead of 5. So it looks like it's the basic rules as I understand it. So I might check this out if this was like free to play. But it's not. It's $39.99. And that's really expensive. And it's definitely questionable if the fan base really exists around it, would really want to play this on Steam. It is probably a great example of a game that if you got it on Steam, you also deserve to get a free code for a mobile version that you could like sideload. That's the big thing that needs to start happening is, for instance, I just played Clue. The Clue Apple version, iOS version, should come with that. And I should be able to sideload that for free and not have to potentially pay $4 to buy it off the Google Play Store after I paid already $11 for it. And Steam's mobile app should help you sideload apps. Because you don't even have to root an Android phone to sideload apps. So, yeah. Moving on. I'm running out of breath. I have a game on Steam here called Mechanica, which looks like it's basically just a building simulator. It says base building and programming. I don't really see anything here that converts into an actual game though. This feels more like a tech demo more than anything else. It's early access. It's $15.99, which is too expensive. Single player only, which I guess that's reasonable. Let's see. Power through to the end. Next we have a game on Steam called HoloDance, which looks like a VR game with a bunch of asset flip kind of anime characters that maybe they dance around. But I don't even know what it is because it seems like all the screenshots that I can see do seem to do very different things. Yeah, we've got a guy drawing in VR. We've got a guy shooting guns in VR. We've got a lot of difference here. Yeah. Yeah, this seems asset flippy. Seems like it's doing a lot of different things in VR that I don't think you could do well in one game. It's $13.99, English full audio allegedly. Yeah. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's unimpressive. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Knights of the Lights, the prologue, which is negatively reviewed. So it says it's an RPG game. It seems like it's probably more just a player versus player, totally accurate battle simulator clone. Let's see if we can see the negative reviews. Early access, English with full Arabic audio, but no interface or subtitles in Arabic. 21-24. Let's see what the reviews are. We have a Arabic negative review and an Arabic negative review. Maybe it's getting review bombed by Arabic speaking countries. Here it says the game is unplayable. This didn't load into game in non-English 7 times. Tried this, gave up. So yeah, apparently it just doesn't play. It just doesn't load. It's just a buggy game. But also some weirdness in a lot of these language reviews, because this is filtered by my language, and apparently Steam can't filter out Arabic people typing, or Arabic people are typing and they've set their language as the wrong language. But Knights of the Light seems to be a big mess, which is kind of a shame. Like a game where you play as a Middle Eastern fighter. This looks fun. This looks good. But they've shot themselves in the foot, figuratively speaking, by going early access too early and asking for too much money and not having anything. It does also, in all fairness, feel like, since this is a single player only game where you seem to just be running around killing things, it doesn't seem like there's going to be much of a game in the long run and much to do. You're going to quickly find that the AI enemies aren't really that good or that intelligent. But I like the concept. Very rarely do you get to play as a Middle Eastern character of any time frame, and we should have more games like that. Next we have a game called Roko Loco into Rato Zinger's Castle, which looks like it's a weirdly animated, almost comic book animation style platformer. If you told me this was a game that came out in the 80s, I would believe you, based off some comic book strip or something. But it says it's brand new. It's $1.99. It's English, Portuguese, Brazil with full audio, and Spanish, Latin America. Yeah, it says the re-release of this game for Steam platform is a celebration of the 15th anniversary of the Roto Loco into Rato Zinger's Castle game, originally released on CD-ROM. So then it really does come down to it was 15. If it's 15 years ago, yeah, that wouldn't be the 90s, would it? Yeah, maybe it would. The question now becomes, is this relevant, or is this some comic strip that happened only in Portuguese Brazil and That's why I don't recognize it. And unfortunately, I think it probably is only relevant to people who are familiar with the comic book, and probably Brazilian people. So I'm still gonna have to say pass on that one. Like, it doesn't have a worldwide relevancy. Let's see. This next game is Tag Sexual Content, which so far this week there really hasn't been any of that. We haven't seen any lewd romance games come out. It would be ironic in the middle of the visual novel sale on Steam if Steam was implementing draconian censorship rules and not allowing adult games to come out. But yeah, we'll give it a week or two and see if we start getting more of those to come out. Next we have Strip 4 Classmate Study, which seems like you're playing Connect 4 with the caveat of the 3D model losing clothes when you lose, or when they lose. It's $1.39 in English only, with some slightly provocative achievement icons. I guess if you're so dumb that you can't play strip poker, or strip poker takes too long, but you want to play some game instead of just looking at straight porn, which would be a lot faster and more convenient, Strip 4 might have an audience there. But I would argue most people will look through it and see it's not that good. It looks like mostly you're only going to get that one girl, and so by the time when you do get her naked, that's going to be it. And so it's not going to be very satisfactory anyways. Next we have a game called Sim Airport, which, yeah, also the game didn't actually say, it wasn't tagged nudity, so it may only get her to her underwear. This game, Sim Airport, is rated very positively, but when I was looking at the screenshots when they were loading, it didn't seem particularly well animated. $24.99, bunch of languages, allegedly all of them in full audio. Yeah, looks very pixely. Looks like there's a lot of text and options that you have to fiddle with to simulate an airport. Why you would want to simulate running an airport, I don't know. Again, this feels like doing someone's job instead of playing a game, or doing several people's jobs, really. Yeah, I just don't see anything there of interest. I could stop now if I wanted to, but we can power through. Next we have a game on Steam called Forest Monster, which is a game where you're playing as an asset flip werewolf, by the looks of it, in a basic asset flip jungle, which the jungle doesn't look terrible, but it does seem like you're pretty much just running and jumping, maybe running into other monsters. It's 99 cents, English full audio. Yeah. If you were going to make a game where you play as a werewolf in the forest, you're going to have a very free-flowing Spider-Man-esque movement where the werewolf can jump really high, jump on tree branches, get from place to place, move extremely fast, and then you're also going to have to potentially fill the forest with victims of the werewolf, so bunch of animals to hunt down and track humans, like campers, things like that. I'm not seeing really any of that here. There seems to be an asset flip of a dragon or something, and that's about it. A two-headed beast of some sort. So, yep. Not interesting. Next we have a game on Steam called Zombie Variant, which looks like a low-effort asset flip zombie game with dark screenshot syndrome. Easily dismissed for 99 cents, English only. Doesn't seem like it even has controller support. Let's see. Next we have a game called Parallel Catastrophes Chronicles, which seems like it's a asset flip first person shooter. Yep, looks pretty ugly too. $25.49 discounted. English full audio, allegedly, and third party EULA. 7 levels. That's what it says. It has this 7 levels, 8 save spots, just in case you need them. But even being limited by the number of save spots is ridiculous. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Kings of Vikings, which is, well, looks like one of these RPG Maker games with anime girls that have nudity lewd scene added on the cell. Let's see. Yeah, it feels like there's an uncensored patch that would go with this game. Otherwise, this is just, it seems to me more like a visual novel than an RPG. I'm not seeing any gameplay here at all. Let's see. Yeah, there's no gameplay being marked here. Let's look at the reviews. Adult content, no. Censorship, not applicable. Hours of gameplay, 2. Modding support, no. Price of patch available. It's a visual novel. Let's see. Yep, that's what it is. It's a visual novel that seems to be sanitized. Otherwise, it has no selling point at all. Which maybe it does just have no selling point at all. Next, we have a game called Bubber Knuckles. BUBBERNUCKLES. Which seems to be more trippy LSD acid stuff. Yeah, I don't know why we're seeing so much of this right now. English early access VR $14.99. English full audio. I would not recommend anybody put on a VR headset and then look at this kind of stuff. I don't know. Like, if you're sober, maybe it's fine, but I would caution against doing it even if you're sober. If you're actually high when you put on the VR headset, I think you're asking for trouble at that point. Next we have a game called Babel Climbers and a bunch of Asian letters. Seems to me like it's probably a Chinese like idle game, if I was to guess. Like a clicker game type experience. It's early access, $7.99 discounted, English and Chinese. Regardless of what it is, it does look pretty uninteresting. I've got one more game and then we'll call it a day. Well, nope. We don't have one more game. So, yeah. Let's go over to the Humble Bundle. I don't think there will be any new Humble Bundles today. But give it maybe a week. Yep, no new Humble Bundles. And then that brings me back to my Twitter feed. Twitter has not been working out as well as I would like it to. It does seem kind of like it stops before I have seen all the news that I feel like I should have seen. So let's scroll down to my Twitter feed. I have completely given up at this point as far as listening to YouTube Insider stuff. They have this weekly show that's supposed to tell you things about YouTube, new things happening at YouTube, but I mean, I can't even care anymore. Like, what they tell you is not really helpful, and it kind of doesn't matter in my point, because frankly, my YouTube channel is either going to succeed or fail almost 100% based on randomness. And all I can do is just keep on putting gas in the car and hope it can make it up the hill and down the hill on its own accord. Or quit putting gas in the car and just quit making content. And see, the craziest way to succeed on YouTube possible is just as believable as anything else. I very possibly could at some point in the future stop making content completely on my YouTube channel, and then just out of the blue years later, people start subscribing to my channel and the algorithm starts promoting it for no reason, which would be very silly if I came back after years of silence and said, hey, I'm actually getting views. Epic has canceled the Unreal Fest Europe 2020 due to coronavirus concerns. Let's see. And then I clicked more tweets, and then that moves me like way down. I don't understand why you would do that. Like, you would think you wouldn't jump down to the bottom of the new content, but they've designed their website badly. Everspace 2 feels like a Star Fox sequel Nintendo forgot to make. Interesting. See, Rodka Lucky Games announces 7 indie visual novel ports coming to the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch in 2020. I'll talk about that on Friday. Twitch is now recovering from their issue. Let's see. Tilting Point acquires the Star Trek Timelines game from Disruptor Beam. Star Trek Timelines never went anywhere as a collectible card game, unfortunately. It was not varied enough, frankly. It's really, really hard to take even the large Star Trek universe and try and make a collectible card around that. You needed to potentially have a lot of cards based around a lot of different characters, and make up a bunch of characters, a lot of ensigns, a lot of red shirts, things like that. But they really didn't. There was just like one Captain Picard card and one like Wesley Crusher card and one of each famous character and actor, and then one of each famous ship, and then that was pretty much it. Okay, well, that was all the news that came out while we were streaming. Not a lot happened in the meantime. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching.